with Sue Bird coming in, at least this is someone that has been positive on Caitlyn at times. And I think the issue with Sue Bird, though, is she has her hand kind of in so many things. And between with her podcast, where she tries to advocate for the players, but she's also an owner in the league. And now she's got the Team USA thing. And she's got all these connections and relationships she has to maintain. But at the end of the day, if it comes down to someone that went to UConn and someone that did not go to UConn, the UConn Mafia is going to stick together until...
Right from the outset, Team USA has found itself tangled in a controversy that could have been completely avoided. What's unfolding now stands as one of the most needless, self-inflicted crises in the entire history of women's basketball, and the turmoil is nearly impossible to ignore. Reports suggest that Caitlin Clark, undeniably the most influential and talked-about player in the game today, has drawn a firm line, making it clear to officials that she will walk away from the team entirely if anyone dares to take away her legendary number. At the same time, Sue Bird is reportedly working frantically behind the scenes, trying to calm tensions and manage the fast-spreading story. Yet the truth is, the damage might already be nearing irreversible levels. This escalating drama intensifies with every passing hour, and its far-reaching consequences could fundamentally reshape the future of women's basketball in profound and long-lasting ways. Now it's your turn. What's your perspective? If you were in Caitlin Clark's shoes, would you really walk away from the honor of representing your country just over a jersey number, or do you think her reaction is crossing the line? Share your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Ever since this story broke, it became immediately clear that the situation is far more complicated and messy than anyone anticipated. What we're seeing is a heated debate, with passionate opinions coming from every corner, and I genuinely want to hear all sides of the discussion. At the center of it all, the narrative indicates that Team USA is pressuring Caitlin Clark to give up her iconic number 22 and switch to an entirely different jersey. Let's cut straight to the point. Team USA basketball has just pulled off an almost unbelievable act of self-sabotage. They targeted the one player who has single-handedly brought millions of new fans to women's basketball, the superstar whose influence eclipses nearly the entire league combined. Yet somehow, they had the audacity to tell her she couldn't wear the number that has defined her entire record-breaking, historic career. Then, in an almost surreal twist, officials acted shocked when Caitlin Clark essentially said, "If that's the case, I'm not staying." Multiple reliable reports from December's training camp indicate that officials plainly informed Clark she would be forced to give up the number she's cherished since she was just 5 years old and first fell in love with basketball. The entire situation feels completely unnecessary, and honestly, it was entirely avoidable from the very start. From an outside perspective, it's impossible to ignore just how deeply this controversy touches Caitlin Clark's identity as an athlete. Her jersey number isn't merely a detail. It has become a global symbol of her rise, instantly recognized by fans all around the world. For her supporters, that number carries the same iconic weight and cultural significance that 23 represents for Michael Jordan. Insiders report that Caitlin didn't hold back at all. Her position was firm, direct, and completely unshakable. If she can't wear her number, she simply won't attend camp. There was no negotiation, no softening of her message, just a crystal-clear boundary drawn in stone. Meanwhile, Sue Bird, now serving as Team USA's managing director, is reportedly scrambling behind the scenes, clearly overwhelmed by how quickly this situation spiraled out of control. And frankly, she has every reason to be concerned. This isn't a minor clerical slip or an innocent misunderstanding. It's a full-blown, five-alarm crisis that makes the entire program look either dangerously unprepared or, even worse, openly dismissive of their sport's brightest star. Let's be honest. Neither of these scenarios reflects well on an organization that wants to project stability, authority, and unquestionable excellence as the pinnacle of women's basketball.
We haven't even made it to training camp yet. We have not even made it to the December 12th Women's USA Basketball training camp yet, and they are already disrespecting.
It's almost unbelievable how completely unnecessary this entire conflict became. The number 22, Caitlin Clark's iconic identity marker, wasn't taken by anyone at all. No player at the camp claimed it. It wasn't retired. It wasn't reserved. It was literally sitting there untouched, wide open, waiting for the one person the entire world instantly associates with it. Think about that for a second. There was no veteran to defer to, no overlapping schedules, and no competing claim. Team USA didn't need to force her to change her jersey. Yet, they made a deliberate choice to complicate what should have been a perfectly simple situation, turning a routine detail into a completely unnecessary and avoidable controversy. This is exactly why it doesn't come across as a simple mistake. It feels completely intentional. It comes across as a quiet power play, seemingly designed to remind Caitlin Clark, who's in charge, a conflict manufactured out of absolutely nothing. Fans noticed, the media noticed, and the entire basketball community has been loudly calling it out. To make matters even worse, the timing couldn't have been more disastrous. This controversy erupted just days before Team USA's high-stakes training camp in North Carolina, set to begin on December 12th. The camp was meant to be a major celebration, highlighting rising stars like Paige Bueckers and Juju Watkins, showcasing the next generation's incredible talent, and reaffirming America's dominance in the world of basketball. Instead of excitement and celebration, all attention has now shifted to this completely unnecessary and bizarre controversy. What should have been a shining moment for the program has turned into one of the strangest, most avoidable dramas the sports world has witnessed in years. When you really break it down, the most shocking part is how everything stems from a single decision. Someone high up in the hierarchy decided that Caitlin Clark, the most recognizable star in women's basketball, should be forced to give up a core part of her identity for absolutely no meaningful reason. And that single choice sparked the chain reaction that has fueled the chaos ever since. Let's be clear about one thing, because this is the core of the debate. Caitlin Clark's number 22 is far more than just a jersey. It has become, without question, the most instantly recognizable number in all of women's sports today. There's no debate, no opposing argument, no other side to consider. From brand new fans who just started watching this season to lifelong basketball enthusiasts, everyone immediately connects 22 with Caitlin Clark. That number embodies her insane, logo-range shooting, the kind of confidence that forces defenses to start guarding her nearly at half-court. It represents her elite passing vision that leaves even professional defenders scrambling. It symbolizes her intensity, her swagger, and her unrelenting competitive fire, the drive that pushes her to keep fighting even when the odds seem impossible. For millions of fans around the world, those two digits stand for excellence, greatness, and the evolution of women's basketball itself. Even with all of that in mind, Team USA chose to look at this global symbol of her identity and insist she wear number 17 instead. A number with no personal significance, no history, no emotional connection, and nothing that reflects the legacy she has built. The only notable thing about 17 in this scenario is that it isn't 22, and that was the entire point. This was never about jersey availability or logistical concerns. It was about asserting authority, a subtle, unmistakable message. No matter how monumental your impact becomes, we are the ones in control. And Caitlin Clark's response sent a message just as clear: if that's the way it's going to be, then you can enforce those rules without me. When you step back and look at the bigger picture, this entire situation starts to feel even more disrespectful because of the heavy context behind it. This isn't some random misunderstanding that suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Everyone remembers the shockwave from earlier, the moment Caitlin Clark was surprisingly left off the Olympic roster, despite being the sport's biggest draw and a proven ratings powerhouse. That decision alone raised serious questions about whether Team USA's leadership truly understood the cultural moment happening right in front of them. Now, when you line up that Olympic snub with this bizarre jersey number controversy, the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. It no longer seems random. It feels deliberate. It looks calculated. Fans everywhere are connecting the dots, and the picture that emerges is deeply concerning. First, she's excluded from the Olympic team, even though no player on earth draws more global attention to women's basketball. Then, she's told to give up the most recognizable symbol of her personal identity, for absolutely no logical reason. When you consider both actions together, it's easy to see why so many people are starting to believe that Team USA is uneasy with just how massive Caitlin Clark's influence has become. The reality is clear. Caitlin Clark has grown bigger than the league itself and even bigger than the national program. History proves that powerful institutions rarely navigate sudden seismic shifts in influence smoothly, especially when a young athlete rises almost overnight to become a global superstar. This brings us to Sue Bird's role, a position that few would envy in the current chaos. As managing director, she's responsible for assembling the training camp roster, maintaining vital relationships, and shaping the long-term direction of the national program. Her focus is supposed to be on player development, strategic planning, and ensuring America's continued dominance on the world basketball stage. Rather than focusing on basketball development and strategy, Sue Bird has been thrust into full crisis control mode, trying to manage a public relations disaster that her own organization essentially created from scratch. Instead of concentrating on talent, coaching, and competition, she's forced to navigate chaos that never should have existed in the first place. Sources close to the situation say Sue Bird has been oscillating between deep frustration and near panic, desperately trying to find a solution that doesn't somehow make the disaster even worse. She's trapped at the center of a storm her organization manufactured, with every potential move feeling like a lose-lose scenario. And here's the stark, undeniable truth that Sue, and all of Team USA leadership, must face. In this showdown, Caitlin Clark holds every ounce of leverage. Every single bit. She doesn't need Team USA to validate her greatness or cement her legacy. That part of her story has already been written, and it shines on its own. Caitlin Clark shattered college records at Iowa that could remain untouched for decades. She transformed the WNBA into a mainstream spectacle almost overnight. She's attracted sponsorships, global media attention, and audiences on a scale no other women's player has ever achieved. Her influence has completely shifted the conversation around the sport. So think about it. What reason does she have to sacrifice her personal brand and identity for a program that has clearly failed to show her the respect she deserves? The reality is simple, she gains nothing by compromising, and she knows it. Team USA, on the other hand, has everything to lose if she chooses to walk away. They risk losing their brightest superstar, the massive cultural momentum she brings, and millions of new viewers who only tuned in because of her. They stand to lose sponsorship deals, national media buzz, and the narrative that women's basketball is entering a historic golden era, all of it fueled by Caitlin Clark's presence. The consequences for Team USA would be nothing short of catastrophic if Caitlin Clark steps aside, an undeniable, full-scale disaster. And make no mistake, Sue Bird knows exactly how high the stakes are in this moment. As soon as the official roster was released, everything suddenly became crystal clear, and not in a good way. The public finally saw concrete evidence of what had been happening behind the scenes. Right there on the training camp list, plainly visible to everyone, Caitlin Clark was assigned to number 17. No rumors, no speculation, no whispers. This was real. Team USA had actually implemented the number change. And the most shocking part? Look at the roster closely, and it's immediately obvious, not a single athlete is wearing number 22. It's completely empty, untouched. They could have easily given Caitlin her iconic number without affecting anyone else, but they didn't. They made a deliberate choice to create conflict instead of taking the simple, logical route. They manufactured this controversy out of thin air, and now they're forced to deal with the massive fallout. This controversy stretches far beyond a single superstar or a simple jersey choice. It has pulled back the curtain on a long-standing, systemic issue embedded throughout women's sports. For years, even decades, WNBA players have spoken out about being undervalued, underpaid, and treated like afterthoughts, despite being the very ones driving the sport forward through unmatched talent and cultural influence. So when the most influential player of her generation is treated as if she's replaceable or interchangeable, it strikes at the core of everything female athletes have been fighting against. It reinforces the same disrespect they've been calling out for years. And all of this unfolds at the exact moment the WNBA is engaged in tense CBA negotiations, with players openly discussing potential walkouts and even a full-scale lockout, frustrated with receiving mere crumbs while generating enormous value for the league. This isn't just drama, it's a direct reflection of the larger power struggles taking place across women's basketball. That's why this jersey number fiasco has struck such a deep emotional chord. At its heart, it was never really about 22 versus 17. It's about principle, the message the decision sends, the pattern it represents, and how it reflects a much broader fight for respect, recognition, and basic fairness in the sport. At the core of this entire controversy is something far bigger than just 2 digits on a jersey. It's about what that number represents: respect, recognition, and the undeniable truth that Caitlin Clark has earned the right to set clear boundaries. When she declares, "This is non-negotiable," she isn't being dramatic or entitled. She's standing up for her identity in a system that has repeatedly tried to control, downplay, and silence female athletes for generations. And many people genuinely admire the courage behind that stance. To be fair, some fans have noted that other stars, like Aya Wilson and Cameron Brink, have also worn number 22 during their careers. That's true. But historically, this has never been a situation requiring executive interference. Players have always navigated these instances respectfully on their own. Look at past All-Star games. Multiple athletes shared the same preferred number, resolving any conflicts with maturity, no drama, and no top-down mandates. The professional, sensible approach would have been to allow Caitlin and Aya to communicate privately if they were ever expected to wear the same number at the same event. Instead, USA Basketball stepped in prematurely, manufactured a conflict out of thin air, and imposed a solution that satisfied no one while publicly disrespecting their most influential and impactful star. This entire fiasco highlights a shocking misunderstanding of Caitlin Clark's true value, and the immense leverage she wields in today's sports landscape. Many organizations operate under outdated power structures, failing to recognize when the balance of influence has completely shifted. And that's exactly the problem here. USA Basketball continues to act as if inviting Caitlin is some monumental favor they're bestowing. They're trapped in old-school thinking, unable to accept the new reality. The dynamics have completely flipped, and the influence has shifted. The truth, the part they seem utterly unable to comprehend, is straightforward. Caitlin Clark doesn't benefit from showing up for Team USA. Team USA benefits from Caitlin Clark showing up. Right now, it's painfully obvious that Team USA still hasn't fully grasped just how much Caitlin Clark brings to their program. Her presence delivers far more value to the organization than they are currently providing to her at this stage of her career. We're in a new era of sports, yet they continue trying to operate under outdated rules and assumptions. Sue Bird's panic is entirely understandable. She's trapped in the center of a bureaucratic storm that isn't entirely of her own making. It's highly unlikely that she issued this directive alone. Other officials were almost certainly involved, possibly following long-forgotten policies about number assignments or clinging to old-school ideas about hierarchy and seniority. But as the public face of Team USA, she is the one forced to absorb the backlash and justify a decision that, to most observers, disrespects their most iconic player. Now, she faces the impossible task of simultaneously convincing Caitlin Clark that the organization values her while defending a move that clearly sends the opposite message. It's a classic no-win scenario. The unfiltered reality is clear. Caitlin Clark has absolutely no reason to compromise. Not one. She has proven herself beyond doubt on the court, shattered records, and elevated women's basketball to heights never seen before. Joining a program that treats her like an afterthought offers her nothing but frustration and entirely avoidable conflict. If Team USA truly wants her back, the responsibility falls squarely on their shoulders. And, making it right, isn't simply about quietly switching a number on a roster. It demands full recognition of her influence, genuine respect for her legacy, and an approach that matches the scale of what she brings to the sport. The solution seems straightforward, but it carries enormous significance. Allow Caitlin Clark to wear her number, openly admit that forcing the change was a serious misstep, and back that acknowledgement with meaningful actions that show real respect, not just empty words. Her participation doesn't only benefit Team USA, it sends a message across the entire sport about the importance of valuing athletes properly and fairly. This controversy has also ignited a larger, ongoing conversation about athlete empowerment in modern professional sports. Today's players, especially superstars with massive personal brands and millions of social media followers, wield far more influence than ever before. They no longer have to silently accept treatment they find disrespectful simply because an organization has traditionally held all the power. If Caitlin Clark chooses to walk away from Team USA, it would send a seismic message across the entire sports world. It would make a statement: you don't have to tolerate being undervalued, even when powerful institutions act as if they are untouchable. That precedent could fundamentally reshape how athletes approach their relationships with governing bodies in every sport. What happens next remains uncertain, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Sue Bird might convince Caitlyn to return by immediately reversing the number decision and offering ironclad assurances that this type of disrespect will never occur again. Or Caitlyn could stand firm, skip training camp entirely, and force Team USA to confront a stark, undeniable reality: they need her far more than she needs them. No matter which way this plays out, one thing is already obvious: the damage to USA basketball's reputation has been done. Publicly, the organization now appears either shockingly incompetent or intentionally disrespectful, and neither perception reflects well on their leadership or their ability to manage the sport's biggest stars. Looking at the situation through the lens of legendary athletes and their iconic numbers really puts it into perspective. No one would have ever asked Wayne Gretzky to give up 99, and nobody would have dared to force Michael Jordan to part with 23. Those numbers became inseparable from the athletes themselves, representing their achievements and cementing their legacies. Caitlyn Clark has reached that same level of recognition in women's basketball. Number 22 isn't just a number, it's her personal brand, and asking her to give it up is essentially asking her to compromise her identity. She has made it perfectly clear, that will never happen. Here's the current reality: Team USA has created a completely avoidable, self-inflicted disaster, and now Sue Bird is left scrambling to manage the fallout before it escalates further. Caitlyn Clark holds all the leverage, fully aware of the enormous power she commands. This story is far from finished, and her next move could reshape the entire landscape of women's basketball. Now it's your turn. What do you think Caitlyn should do next? Share your thoughts in the comments below, hit the like button if you found this breakdown insightful, and make sure to subscribe for all the latest updates as this drama continues to unfold.